Hi everyone, I'm Bunny, and today on Otome Rambles, I'll be talking about Tengoku Struggle Strayside, the first localized title on this channel. I actually bought this game a month after release, but I had other commitments at the time. But after playing 2 high-level Japanese games, I yearned to see English on my screen once again, so here we are. Before we begin, I'd like to give some short disclaimers, so feel free to pause the video to read them if you would like, and if not, let's get on to the video. Through an agreement between the human realm and the hell realm, Asakusa was transformed into a tourist attraction, where the living can meet the dead. One day, the spider's thread, a pardon of a sinner's wrongdoings, was dropped from heaven down into hell, allowing many of hell's prisoners to escape. King Enma thus orders his novice hell guardian daughter, Rin, to capture the escapees, along with a few trustworthy prisoners. But each of them carries regrets that could put the mission in jeopardy. Tengoku Struggle Strayside was released in Japan in July of 2022 by Otome, before being announced for localization via Axis Games later that year. On April 4th, 2024, it was finally released in the West with a teen rating. It is the third project from the famous team composed of director Wataru Watanabe, scenario writer Yuma Katagiri, and illustrator Satoi. This team is responsible for the mega hits Nil Amirari, which is still in my backlog, and Olympia Soiree. Tengoku is mostly a slice-of-life comedy with some action elements that come from its overarching plot. Have you ever lied about being sick to get out of a social commitment? Or maybe you killed that pesky fly that kept buzzing in your ear? Well, chances are you're going to hell, if the rules are anything like Tengoku's, that is. After a human's life has drawn to a close in the human realm, there are 5 other realms they can reincarnate into. The 2 of interest are the heavenly realm and the hell realm. The former is the destination for very few people. It's exclusive to those who led devout and pure lives, while the hell realm is where sinners, aka basically everyone, ends up. The one who rules over hell is none other than King Enma. In the hell realm, there are 8 burning hells and 8 freezing hells, each having sublayers. Each layer has unique torture methods for its sinners after they've been sentenced. Those who show enough repentance for their crimes become model prisoners and are allowed to work in the Asakusa ward in the human realm. Regardless of model status though, most prisoners eventually reincarnate after their soul has been worn down enough. Back to the Asakusa ward. As part of their mission, Rin must room with 4 boorish men in a house in the heart of it. It's Rin and her lovely Hellcat Tama against these guys, and chaos is bound to ensue. Men fear her and her dad embarrasses her. Rin Enma is the precious adopted daughter of the King of Hell. As the valedictorian of her graduating class at Hell Guardian School, Rin's more than ready to whip some prisoners into repentance. With no interest in the human realm and a flat-out hatred for men, leading a whole ragtag team of them in Asakusa will be no walk in the park for our uptight newbie. The Ben 10 biting kid, Kikunosuke Uga, voiced by Saito Soma, hails from the Black Rope Hell, a lair for thieves. Nowadays though, the only thing Kiku's stealing is probably people's spots on the leaderboard at the arcade. Being the youngest of the bunch, Kiku's something of the de facto spunky little brother to the guys, but he's got plenty of bite to back up his bark. The tyrannical old navy, Yona Murakami, voiced by Ryota Suzuki, was sentenced to the revival hell, which is mostly reserved for those who have committed wartime murder. Yona's a loud hothead, but when he's not up in arms, he's a bona fide bookworm and the Tweedledee to Kiku's Tweedledum. Ukyo the Killer, Sharakuto Shusai, voiced by Kaito Ishikawa, comes from the Crushing Hell, a lair for those who committed lewd acts in their lives. Sharaku is deeply cynical and, as you might expect, equipped with a dirty joke and jab for any situation. In contrast to his crass nature, during his life, Sharaku is a famed artist known for his beautiful paintings, which can still be bought in Asakusa. Oh, and he's a total clean freak. The heinous anti-hero, Goemon Ishikawa, voiced by Takuya Ashiro, is the world-famous thief whose short life still inspires several creative retellings today. Though the guy himself thinks the real deal's the better version, obviously. Compared to the rest, he's a surprisingly easygoing and even reasonable guy. But he's from the eternal hell, a lair home to the worst of the worst. One can only wonder what kind of sins got him there. Wabasabi Singer. Jack, voiced by Makoto Furukawa, is an entertainer with a cult following. Unlike the rest of the allies, he is of the human realm. With great influence comes great responsibility, and who knows how Jack intends to use his. The first 3 routes are unlocked, and there's a soft recommended route order, but I just did based on vibes for the starter routes until reaching the last 2 locked routes. My order was as follows: Sharaku, Kiku, Yona, Jack, Goemon. Each route has 10 chapters and then a 2-chapter ending branch for the good and bad ends, both of which have CGs. Goemon's route is a bit longer because he's our little golden boy. I'll be going through the routes in the order in which I played them. Rin pairs up with Sharaku in their mission to bring back the prisoners, but getting closer to him is no easy task with a personality as evasive and vulgar as his. Going into the LI routes, Sharaku and I already had mad beef, so I was ready to knock him out first. Sharaku loathes hashing feelings and is all about action. Unfortunately for him, Rin isn't. Their romance is filled with bickering and one-sided flighty forwardness, and it's not coming from Rin. Rin's ability to shut down Sharaku's sleazy shenanigans got plenty of laughs out of me, but don't go thinking Rin being no nonsense will stop her from feeling a little something, cause when she falls hard. This is true for all of the routes. Sharaku certainly likes to make a joke of everything, but he's very perceptive. And I liked how that played into the romance between the two, considering Rin can be quite the overthinker. The route played pretty smoothly for me. The inclusion of route exclusive major side characters makes Sharaku's route stand out, especially since they were so poignantly relevant to Sharaku's backstory and character development. On the downside though, they teased out the source of Sharaku's regret too much for me that it leaned anticlimactic once it was fully revealed. Sharaku is one of those characters that grew on me the more time I spent with him throughout the game. Like, yes Sharaku, go do your mean girl thing. Teaming up with Kiku in part of their escapee retrieval might get a little messy when Rin finds herself caught up in some family turmoil that has spanned centuries. Kiku and Rin are equally head over heels for one another, but they can hesitate in crossing that line, despite how much they both really want to. This results in several small moments of romantic tension between the two. Rin is the assertive one in this relationship, but Kiku is pretty eager himself, and I ate up every second of it. This romance is C-U-T-E cute. It's also weird that it is, considering some of the metaphors it opts to use. I'll admit that its methods aren't the most varied, but I truly believe that Kiku's route excelled at hitting those emotional beats until its cathartic climax. The conflict, antagonist, and Kiku's character arc felt the most harmonious and fleshed out, and made this route the most memorable for me. I feel like the best way to describe Kiku is dog boy with layers. He's persistent, straightforward, and might get knocked down over and over, but still chooses to be as optimistic as he can. Butting heads is inevitable for Rin with a person so stuck in his ways like Yona. But some wake-up calls may be in store for the pair. Yona's romance, when mapped out, has a clear progression, but the execution just didn't land for me. In most of the other routes, Rin and her ally are stuck together like glue, but I noticed that Yona was around just a teensy less than others in their routes, and I think that made all the difference in me being able to feel the connection between the pair. I can understand the pain and turmoil Yona experienced, but I found his regret and backstory the least compelling. I fear that Yona's parallels with an antagonist here only cemented my thoughts on not being sold on the central theme of the route. I would have liked to see more snippets into Yona's life so I could have better empathized with him. Yona was my most anticipated along with Kiku after finishing the common route. I even saved him for third since I had such high hopes. It's unfortunate he didn't live up to my expectations, but rest assured I still love him. His main internal conflict was lost on me, but I think they aced rounding out the nuances of his personality. Yona deeply cares about those dear to him, but he can't help but express it in the most brutish way possible. It's clear that Yona's ill temper is a farce he puts up to swallow his vulnerabilities, until he learns to finally confront them by the end of the route, with the help of others. Hopeful to get more info on the superstar, Rin diligently works to be in Jack's good graces, much to the dismay of her 4 rowdy housemates. Guys, Jack's route was all fun and games until everybody remembered it was Jack's route. Rin and Jack's relationship pales in comparison to everyone else's, so I struggled rooting for them. I also think Rin is at her weakest in this route. I was a way bigger fan of the non-romantic dynamic that Jack eventually developed with Rin and the rest of the cast. Aside from that, Jack's route had me on my toes regarding how this wannabe Tumblr sexy man might fit into our overall story. And I liked how he did and enjoyed the prevalence of the comedy. I'd even go as far as to say the game's funniest moments come from Jack's route. I think Jack's concept as a character is pretty interesting, but there were just a lot of things working against him in his own route. It's a bird! It's a plane! No, it's Goemon, the man the game has been hyping up the entire time. It's not really up for debate that Goemon is that guy. He is so utterly devoted to Rin, doing anything in his power to lessen her worries, even if it means adding to his own. But an oblivious Rin is especially tsundere in conveying her bubbling feelings towards him. Rin is always a joy to watch, but considering the couple's situation, I was dead at some points. However, the romance is occasionally sidelined because of all the madness at hand in this route. Goemon's route arguably spent the most time illustrating the Li's past due to its connection to Rin's, but I still felt like it left something to be desired. Considering how much this route had on its plate with overarching, but also interesting plot points, I am not sure any other execution would have been feasible. On a more positive note, the integration of the entire cast in this final route made it so eventful. Goemon's route got to the heart of Tengoku's main message, that it was slowly building throughout the routes, and did so in the most entertaining way possible. Ending on this route felt like a full circle moment and a reminder that Tengoku is all about fun. One might argue that Tengoku feels a bit aimless at times, but I feel like it's regularly transparent from the beginning and encouraging Rin and by extension the player to prioritize the journey rather than the destination, and to just have fun. Thus, I believe Tengoku is more a story about giving back a life to people who had it slip through their hands when they were alive, rather than a pure action drama about capturing some bad guys. Although it is part that too. I suppose it's just up to preference whether that's your jam or not, but I followed the wise words of a certain silly Hell King and tried to enjoy the ride as much as possible. For the most part, Tengoku's tone reminded me of a shonen anime, so I didn't have any personal gripes with its juxtaposing nature of how it could go from serious to silly kind of in an instant. If anything, I felt like it added to the unique atmosphere of the game. Now, when it comes to the route pacing, I was mostly satisfied. The circumstances of every route make it to where the main objective is Rin and the Li building a relationship, so it's fair to say Tengoku puts the romance first. On the other hand, it was the pacing of reveals that I didn't jive with as much sometimes. As always, this is just an opinion, but sometimes it feels like a revelation wasn't quite worth all the teasing. I felt this way a handful of times while playing, and some instances were more underwhelming than others. Tengoku Struggle Strayside may entertain and even lament the despondency that comes with life, but prefers to stay fun, zany, and hopeful. And I welcomed it. If doom and gloom is what you're looking for, well, you're not gonna find it here. Tengoku's story and characters are so hilarious and heartfelt that when it was time to leave them, I was drowning in melancholy. Despite the name, this title was no struggle for me to play through.